Night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horror Night Oasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Ian. Ian, are you there?
I am.
Ian, I tell you, it has been a while since we've done a show.
Yeah.
About 2 months now, and that is, I guess, on to myself, not because of not being able to come together to do a show, but because of, let's just say, personal reasons. I don't really want to get into it much, but it's been rough and kind of hectic on my side. I just needed time to take care of it. And I know, family life on your end's been, troublesome as well. And we just, again, didn't really want to take a break, but things happen, and I just had to put all my effort into this health issue that was going on my end, and but we're here, and I needed this. I really needed this because I need to clear my head, and the only way to do that is to talk horror movies with my buddy, and especially when we kick off the Indie-Pendence Horror Marathon, and that's one of our favorite time of the year. It's right up there with Halloween and Christmas, where we get to talk indie horror, even though we do talk about it nonstop all the time, but it's a staple for the show, and we always like to kick it off with something good. But it's going to be a fun show just to clear our heads and talk horror.
Yeah, agreed. It's been a little rough on my end as well, so but I'm glad we're back. I've been craving a show, so here we are, and hopefully we can make this show work.
Yeah, and again, I'm looking forward to it, and I guess we might as well just go ahead and kick it off with our review that we last year we started off the marathon with the first film, Reunion from Hell, and since then the sequel became available, and so now we are checking out Reunion from Hell 2, directed by Hayden Newman and Sam Hodge, and we kicked off last year with the first one, and I think we both enjoyed it for what it was and what it tried to do, and it added a little flair there with the gay theme, because you don't really see too many indie horrors discuss go into that territory. There's a few, but again, I think we liked it for what it was trying to accomplish, and it was simple and concise and knew what it wanted to be. And this one, when they were talking about it very early on, because again, I was keeping in line with the film being made as after the first one came out, and pretty much they went right into pre-production like at right in the tail end of the first one. So he went right into this, wrote the script, and got everybody together and came together and made the film. And it's set again. There's really no time frame for the film. I'm assuming it's like a year, maybe later that year, the following year. I'm not exactly sure. They should have put that in there to help
Yeah.
make things a little more easier to figure out. I don't know if it's been again 1 year, that same year that the first massacre happened, or a few years down the line. I'm assuming it's the year later, and so it sets up where our character Riley is going to another. It's Christmas, and he's going to a cabin in the woods where his mom's rented it, or where she lives now. Again, they don't really clear up too many things, so it's a lot of the films kind of like that, but we'll get into it. And so him and his friends, and also some of the ones that he kind of again met since the ending of the first film, um, and so they go up to the cabin, meet up with his mom, who is played by Lisa Wilcox this time, and so they got a lot of different people playing the same different actors playing the same characters from the first film, and that's another thing that kind of like threw me off, and because it was like, okay, so it's the same Chris as the first film, but just a different actor. So again, it took me a while to like, okay, hopefully that's right. Hopefully, unless there's
Okay.
he got another Chris that he was involved with. But anyway, they go there and they meet up with Mike, who was in the first one, the sheriff, and then they meet up with his uncle Clay, and of course Chris becomes involved, and a bunch of other characters. We have Cameron, Alana, Dawson, and Wes. Now he was having a sort of friends with benefits sort of situation with Dawson, and also again Chris was previously involved with the first film, and so basically they're just up there and they start celebrating things, and slowly we're introduced to the killer, stalking them in the house, outside in the woods, and it just goes on from there. Where now the killer is wearing the the skinned face of a character from the previous film, Jen. And so that's technically, I like that aspect. I did like that part of the where like
I thought the killer looked cool.
yeah, we're taking the skin face of a previous character and using it. And so that's technically honestly the gist of the film. I mean, there's really not much. Um I mean, they use more of the with Riley's character played by Hayden again, where he's going through relationship problems and big love stuff that was like sort of again harkens back to the first film with Chris, and I think Grady was the other one that he liked. So again, there's that menage a trois shit going on where they're just having quarrels, and this is technically it's the same thing with this one, but it's not as tight as the first film. And then of course, again, the start, characters start getting picked off and attacked one by one. And then things slowly start to reveal themselves as the film progresses. Normal stuff. Um, but overall, compared to the first film, it was okay. But I
Yeah.
think I mentioned before, I think the first film is more tighter and concise and knew what it was going for, where this one just felt sort of uneven. And a lot of things are just like, I'm not going to say thrown at the wall because I don't want to say that, but it just felt like they didn't exactly know kind of like how to continue on the story, and it kind of felt like honestly it kind of felt unnecessary. I know they wanted to continue on, and I don't mean that in the most in any disrespect. I just felt like the story, when everything was laid out and finally revealed, it didn't really make sense to like the first film in a way, um, to the whole plan of, because again the first film, it was, again, spoilers, it was the brother, um, and like this one, the kind of just like add more on there, and like the whole reasoning for everything that happened in this film kind of doesn't work when you look back on the first film. Again, like I said, it was more concise and to the point, and very Scream influenced, heavy influence there. But this one, just like there was like it was elongated too. It was like an extra 10 or 15 minutes longer than the first film, and they really didn't add much. I mean, they added more character development for Riley, and but again, like everyone else was just like downplayed. I mean, I think the characters in the first film were more interesting than they were here. Like
Yeah.
they're just like not nonchalant. You don't even know they're there half the time with this one. Whereas like the first film, they were like an important factor because again, his father died, and they all come together for the reunion, and like they're all talking, and it's been years since they've all seen each other, and they're getting reconnected. And this one, again, however long between films it just feels like you're just like picked up and placed into this, and you don't know where you're at. you know it's just like, okay, what's happening? Like you're coming in on a conversation towards the end, and like you're trying to put the pieces together. You're like, okay, so this and this person and that. Okay, it doesn't make and then like you're trying to like, okay, so it's the same character as different person. Okay, so I'm trying to you're doing all this in your head and trying to think like, okay, and it's like all these conversations that leads to the first one. Even it's just again, you're coming into it differently. That's the best way to put it.
Right.
But again, I didn't hate it, but as I said, it didn't really move anything for me. Where the first one was like a pretty solid little indie slasher. This one, it just felt like they're grasping at straws. I'm like, not in the not being insincere, but I'm just saying it just like it didn't have the same vibe as the first one did. I mean, it's just kind of nonchalantly just like there, and just like conversations. I mean, there's not even really getting to know anybody like you did in the first one. And it's just like I said, the characters are there, plot points are kind of moot, and it just really doesn't, you just kind of lose interest as the film progresses. And you kind of don't want that in a slasher film.
Yeah.
And again, overall, again, I didn't hate it. It just, compared to the first one, it's not that. I'd rather watch the first one again numerous times than this one ever again. But that's my thoughts. Ian, your turn. We'll go back and forth.
All right. Well, no, I completely agree. Like, I felt like this movie, there was too many, like, just blase. It
Mm-hmm.
was just, like they were just talking and fighting and more talking, and like really nothing happens. Like a death happens here and there. And you're like, oh, okay. And then it's like, oh, we're back to talking again. And like, it's like the last 30-40 minutes of the film when something actually happens.
Yeah.
um I don't know, it was really hard to keep interested in this movie up, and like, but I mean, I liked how it ended. I liked the killers. um I liked the little twist. uh yeah, overall, like, it's not a bad film. It's just like you said, there's not, like, I would rather watch the first movie uh again, because I thought, I agree with you. Like, the first movie really did it, like, it felt like it knew what it wanted to do. And I felt like this movie, they wanted to tell more of like the stories,
It
like
felt
just
rushed. Like I said, like as soon as they went into like as soon as the first one was done, like with post production, they went directly into this one. And I
yeah,
think they needed to just let it set before going into it, because it would have felt more tighter and more, paced well, because again, you had all the time in the world with the first one, and then you decided to let's fast track into the sequel. And
Yeah.
again, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Hollywood does it all the time, but it just felt like it didn't have time to breathe,
Yeah.
and it kind of shows, because it's just like they didn't know what they wanted to do with it. Like the big reveals weren't really all that impressive, and again, like I said, didn't really make too much sense when compared to the first film. Like honestly, I mean, what I don't know. It's just like I didn't like you said. You like the killers. I thought it was shit compared to the first one.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Well, I just
um,
like the killer's mask mostly.
yeah. Well, the mask was good, but the reveal is just not. I mean, I pretty much saw the reveal. Like, there's only one person, and then like they introduced something else, and like, okay, whatever. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
again, it's just like there. It's like it's trying too hard to be something that it can't achieve. And like the first one achieved it perfectly, because I think we both, again, agreed on the first one being damn good for an indie movie, and it hitting everything perfectly. This one is just like we say it kind of often, but like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And like this one, like
Yeah.
again, they had a good idea with the mask being used and some of the reveals of that, but as for like plot points and character development, it's nil in this one. It's just like it didn't land. And like again, it just like for half the movie, I was uninterested, and I was just like, my God, this is just a long
Yeah.
film.
No, it was a very hard watch. Uh, I just kept finding myself like looking, like just my brain started to wander, like, and started doing other stuff. I'm like, no, I gotta pay attention. And I was like, I started to just want to like do other things. Just I was like, I just got bored of the talking. That's I feel like that's one of our biggest complaints when it comes to indie movies that don't know what they want to do. So they just put us in this like story mode where it's just nothing but dialogue until they figure out what they want to do with it and
Yeah,
where they want to take it.
because you have again the love triangle with Chris and Dawson, and then stuff that happens with that, and then like again like Alania, barely noticeable, and then apparently Cameron and Wes, they have a fight, and I don't really understand the reason that they had a fight. Was it because of Alania? No, Alania is a lesbian, I think. So it's not
Yeah.
because of her. It's because of someone else. And like there's just like things that happen and don't like, where's this coming from? It just doesn't really add up to like where they're going for. And then um and then you have the subplot with Ryan, who played by Mark Patton, and he's the reporter that did the story. He broke the story of the first the murder, and he's wanting to like continue on that high by making getting more of a story, and trying to figure out stuff with the Riley and his family. So he's always snooping around the house, and like they could have done again. There's like a lot of like they could have added more like grief, because it just felt like, again, I don't know how long it is between the movies, but it didn't feel like they were like really grieving that much after, again, because killed a brother. Like the whole film is like, man, is there another family member involved that's the killer? But I
That would
was
have been
wrong.
funny.
Yeah, but again, I kind of expect. Again, I don't know really what to expect when we watch these, but having fun, enjoying the first one, I did expect hopefully it'd keep that same vibe, and it just kind of went the other way. And
Yeah.
again, it's unfortunate, but again, like I said, I didn't hate it. It just wasn't as entertaining or as fun or as enjoyable as the first film, where it just like it hit that sweet spot, and it managed to do everything pretty concise and evenly, and kept you interested. And the kills were again pretty. They were few and far between toward especially they're mainly towards the end. Whereas this one they kind of sprinkle them a little bit throughout, but I just felt like the story was more sufficient and with the first one than this one. This one just felt, just like as you said, blasé.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I didn't expect this to be anything spectacular. I mean, it's actually kind of funny. My wife and I were talking about, like, I was just randomly thinking, like, about movies that don't really live up to, like the sequel, the sequel not living up to the first movie. And I just was thinking about that as I was watching. I was like, man, I was literally in a conversation like this about that, today. But yeah, no, it was fine. It is fine. It's not like a horrible movie. I wish they would have did a different route because I really think that they could have made this something special. Like, I definitely could have seen this being a better series. But I don't know. Like, I kind of felt like, I mean, like you said, if you watch the movie and you watch enough movies, you can usually see this twist coming.
And exactly, and like that's what I said. It plays out like every other cabin in the woods movie you've seen. Like old people would come into a like Red Christmas was like that. Even though I like Red Christmas better. And just like everything, like coming to the woods or into a house cabin in the woods, and then like people start getting attacked off. There's some kind of weird thing happening. It's just like it's been done before. And again, I'm not saying that the first one was anything you haven't seen before because that was more screamish, but like this one was just like this plays out. This is just like cookie cutter, paint by numbers shit. And again, I don't know. I kind of expected a little bit more from it, and that's the thing. I wanted to know more. Because again, I liked Riley's character, in the first one, and like his struggles with like alcoholism and all the stuff that he was going through and trying to overcome. And this one, it's like his character is like, where's the progression? Like he's I guess he's got past alcoholism, but like now you're not really going into the grief portion of like losing the father and the brother and all that stuff. It just seems like it's just like, or all his other friends, and like now this one he has this new group of friends and like nothing's bothered him. It just felt
yeah,
weird. Like there was like no progression to his character in a weird way.
yeah,
You saw some heavy shit with your friends dying around you and like, oh, whatever.
right. And I don't
Like
know.
he could have struggled with like going back on his alcoholism or something like that, where he's like trying not to, and like he could have done something with that. Like I said, all this stuff that could have been thought of, if it was given time to breathe and work on the script instead of
Yeah,
going right into it.
yeah, no. I felt like I said, like you said, it definitely does feel rushed, and I think they really could have played more into his character development a little bit better because I felt like whatever character development happened in the first movie was kind of just ignored a little bit. It
Yeah,
really just felt like they didn't know what to do with these characters. They had these characters, they had an idea where they wanted it to go, and that's why they just disappear halfway through because I think they didn't know how to execute um they didn't know how to execute their stories until it became convenient. And I was like, okay, you know, I thought the truth or dare scene went a little too long. Um, I knew there was a setup coming. Uh, you know, and then you got the just it was like just forgettable. Most of the scenes were forgettable. They threw a red herring at you, and like I kind of felt like that person might have more of a story, but like I don't know, like I was like just wanting something more from this film. Like I just felt like something was missing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just kept saying like something is missing. Something about this story is not adding up. Also, I'm glad you said that one guy got replaced because I was sitting there. I was like, I don't remember you. I was like, it's setting me up that I'm supposed to remember, but I was like, I am not placing your face. And I was like, oh, that's why, because I literally just jumped into it because I've been really busy today, so I didn't have a time to look up like who was in the first movie and the second one. But
Yeah, again, that it's
I
like
was
took me
going
for a
crazy.
second. Like, wait a second, that's the Chris from the first. Okay, and like apparently Grady is just gone now. That he had a love interest in the first one along with Chris, but um, that's again, unless I don't know, the whole love triangle thing in this one just didn't really. I mean, it's the central point of the film, but it just like it didn't work as well as the first one did. Um, and it just like didn't really make sense when you go back and look at the first one compared to this one afterwards. It's just like, no, no, that's just like I said, just tossing ideas and hoping it works, and it didn't land as as competently as you had hoped it would. And again, I don't mean
Right.
that in any disrespect. I'm just like it just didn't work with what they wanting to get out there. Um, it just didn't really make sense. Like, okay, but again, it's neither here nor there. As I said, it wasn't as good as the first one. It wasn't as concise and thought out as the first one. Um, it just there's just glaring issues with the film, and again, it was made well. Like I said, everyone did well for what they were doing. I like we said that with the first one. Like it's well made for an indie and looks good. Some effects were good. The music's good. The story was just lacking in this one, and like they needed more character development and growth with Riley. Like his mom, like again, they replaced his mom, but like she lost again, spoilers, she lost her husband and a son, and she's ready to move on. How many every year apart between the first one and the second one, and she's like, oh, nothing's wrong. It's just like it went over her head that she lost people, and it's just like that's the one thing where it just felt like there's no grieving process for this. Like you need to do something, instead of just getting over it so fast. Like there needed to be something there with the characters' growth from film to film, and it feels like the first one doesn't even happen apparently. Like after all the shit that went down in that film, and
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, I'm not an alcoholic anymore. I'm not fighting my demons. So like it just felt again just like messy, and like I don't mean messy like it's all over the place. It's just like it just wasn't properly thought out messy, and it was just like you were trying, but you just didn't know exactly what you wanted to do. And like I'm assuming they did because the film's made, but it's just not the way that it should have went, in my opinion. Like again, who am I? We're just reviewers on the internet, but it just felt like there needed to be more growth for the characters involved, and like we needed more understanding of these new characters. Like his friends. Like where's these friends come from? How did he know these? Did he get introduced this way and that way? We needed something there, but you didn't get anything. Like even with the friends with benefits Dawson. Like he's just like, okay, so I'm supposed to. Okay, so that's the thing. And it just felt, shoehorned in for the most part.
No, yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with that. Like, I just, like I said, like you said, there's just like, I don't even know. Like, I'm just trying to think of without trying to chase my tail. I mean, the idea was there. I think, like you said, if it had a little bit more time to be developed, I think they could have made something much better. Like, but it is what it is. I mean, like, it wasn't horrible. Just felt like it took forever to uh basically get started.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like nothing really gets going until like the last 30 minutes. And this is an hour and a half film. Well, really, it's I think
This is 140.
yeah. So like you have over an hour of nothing but talking. And get like, I felt like a lot of those scenes could have been not rushed through, but like cut out, cut down. Like, I think,
if the conversations were better, it would have been better.
yes. And they, and the acting felt more flat than the first movie did.
Yeah, especially
And
towards the end there. It
yeah,
felt it didn't come across as good. It's like I mean, we watch a lot of low budget stuff, and like the acting in the first one was again spot on. This one felt overacting in a sense. When they're like screaming at each other and crying and going after one another, that felt like sort of like, ugh, that's not good. I mean, not saying anything bad about their acting because again, we liked the first film, but this one just felt it didn't feel as
heartfelt.
natural as the
Yeah.
first one.
Like, I just felt like it was missing heart.
Yeah,
It's like they
that's the
wanted
thing.
to
I think
do
the
this,
first one
but
had
they
that.
weren't in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, like, it's fine. I don't have any problems with bad acting. I really don't.
I mean, no, how could we watched an 8-year-old act? All right, it's not.
Yeah.
I
Like,
mean,
it's not.
our tolerance is high.
But, line delivery, um, and just like,
It comes off as like a stage play acting when they're like a high school stage play where it's just like it's not good, but they're trying, and
yeah.
they're just not
And
giving it their all. Like the first one was like, man, I can't. Like they came out there and they knocked it out of the park the first time, but then you get like they try to perform it again a year later, and it's just not as good. You know?
right. Well, and that's just what I want. I was like, because kind of expecting it to be more like the first film, but you know, just the line delivery on a lot of it too was just robotic, kind of just like they would say a line and it was kind of like their lines were broke up a little bit, where it was like they were ab-libbing and they didn't. I don't know if they did retakes or not, but it was starting to. Uh, I don't know. It was just not interesting. Just nothing to really grab you and hold your
Yeah.
attention, which is like something you really don't want to do when you're making a movie. Because then, because the whole goal is to, keep your interest, keep the audience's interest. But I don't know. It's
Yeah.
really hard to top when you do something really well the first time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, yeah, I guess we kind of coming into it with like again mild to high expectations because again the first one's pretty solid. Indie slasher. I think if you go back and listen to that review, we talked about its faults as well, and did pretty well in reviewing that one. And again, we state it like it is, and if like something doesn't work right, we're gonna say it. And like this film, just like it felt rushed, and I mean it's obvious for it actually being sort of just like as soon as they were done with post production, we're gonna go right into part two. And
Right.
it like I said, it needed time to breathe. You needed to get the characters right and just work on that script to make it go down the path you're wanting it to. And it just again, the it didn't add much story character development to anybody. There's no grief, there's no overcoming anything that happened in the first film. Um, I mean, they added a little bit from a previous character by making the killer mask being her face, and that's like the only part of the film I can give props to. I mean, is that interesting mask of using a previous character's face. Um, the kills weren't again the kills in the first film weren't impressive either. I mean, just here and there. Um, I mean, they could have done more with like the holiday set. I mean, someone did get strangled with Christmas lights, so I guess that's there. But there just needed to again put a little bit more. They needed a little bit more effort put into it instead of rushing and getting you know uh, cult horror actors in there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they had a bigger role than most cameo uh, horror actors do. So I do give them props for actually working them into the story.
Yeah.
Um, so that again, I can give that credit too. Um, there just needed to be again, like the mom needed to go through some grief. Riley needed to be like fighting off demons and stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of that towards when he gets the DVD off the tree, but it just felt like, oh, that's right, I had a brother that's dead, tried to kill me, but it just doesn't like it just doesn't hit the mark like it should, and it's just like he's like everybody's shrugging everything off like nonchalantly, and just like it just didn't hit right as the first one did. And again, I think we're going around in circles, but it's just like you got to hit the point.
Right. Yeah. Plus, we're both a little rusty. It's been 2 months,
Yeah,
and we're both like still recovering from the past couple of weeks and months. Really, we both have had a rough couple of months.
you ain't shitting.
Yeah, but I mean, for what everything it, for what it all was, um, I'm glad that they took the chance with it. Uh, I'm glad that you know they felt comfortable enough to continue this. But honestly, I really didn't see how they would have done it in the first place. Like, that wasn't a movie I was expecting to get a sequel because it just felt, pretty open and done.
Yeah, like I said, man, once the reveals start happening, even though I knew the one, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't like make sense either. I mean, they try to make it make sense, but I just felt like it didn't work. Like the whole point of the first one was, again, not getting too into the first one was like the brother, and like all the shit that he was going down with. And just to throw more wrenches in there with the reveals in this one, it's just like that doesn't make sense. I mean, even the conversations in the first one don't lead off to more people behind the scenes, And like if you're gonna do that, like at least introduce the characters, like of the reasoning why. I mean, when they get revealed and just like it doesn't make sense.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I don't know, I was kind of expecting it to be more of the same, and I was kind of let down a little bit. But I hope that they continue, not with the series. I kind of hope that they drop this series and move on to another series. And I mean, I'm glad that they, explored, you know, the LGBT plus like themes. Like I want to see more movies of it, but anytime I've ever tried, like I found a movie like it, it's always kind of done in poor taste. And I
Mhm.
felt like this was done really well. It just felt like, you know, like it didn't go out of its way to try to force a message, or um, that it was just plain, like on overly used stereotypes and all that kind of stuff. Like I felt like it was really tastefully done, and I would like to see more from this director. I think that the director is, you know, knows what they're doing given enough time to do it. And I felt like they were just so excited about how well the first one did that they just jumped into it, and they had already started before they realized they didn't really know what they wanted to do with it. And I mean also, budgets and time and uh scripts not working out properly, and not having a team of writers to hurriedly fix, any kind of like mistakes and stuff. So things have to be put out on the table. That, I get that. And I'm not holding them, that I really think that they know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And this movie does not show that. Like I feel like they could really shine given the opportunity. And I really can't wait to see what else they put out.
Well, I know that Sam is went on to do Redhead, and I don't know if that's available yet, but I'm looking. That's the one that him and I think John did, and I gotta check that out. Hayden, he's traveling all over the place doing conventions and stuff. So again, I don't know if he's writing anymore at the moment. I'm sure he's always writing, but at the moment he's just going to cons. Um, but again, I'm happy to support him. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy reviewing the films. This one just, like I said, sometimes an indie one doesn't work all the time, and this one, like I see again, this is a what I say all the time. I see what could have been, and going through my head of what the film could have looked like or could have ended up being, but it didn't go that way. And so you have that mindset in your head, and then you have the reality. And again, it's just like they needed to just, like I said, just let it breathe and then slowly ease into it. Because they were going through the Indiegogo or the campaign, crowdfunding stuff, not long after the premiere of the first one. And again, they had the premiere, and then they went like that year, just went right into the part two, and it's just like you can definitely see, again, we're repeating ourselves, but like you can see that it just like kind of just felt rushed, and they just like it needed to breathe. You needed more character development. You needed understanding of who the new characters are, because it just felt like, oh hey, new characters, and you needed some like set path of how many years or how long between the films happened. Um, because now you have the first reunion going to the funeral of his dad, his dad dying, and then you have this Christmas reunion, and again, was it a couple months? Was it a year? 2 years? It just doesn't make, it doesn't give you a time frame, so you're just left to like trying to piece things together. And like I said, it's just like one of those things where you just walk in on a conversation at the end and just like trying to make things make sense.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like with this one. It's just like, again, with the new characters coming in there as playing the previous characters, and just like, okay, I'm trying to okay. So you're trying to get that part to make sense. Like, okay, so it's a different actor playing Chris.
Right.
And then you have Dawson coming in, who's apparently there was some kind of relationship going on there, even though Hayden was dating Chris, and was it Grady? Like again, Grady just fell off the face of the earth since the first one. So it's like, what happened to Grady? It's just like a lot of things just like fell out. Like it didn't make sense. Even with like the first one, like they had like a conversation, and then like the with Riley and Chris, they were like having a conversation in one of the places, and then that's the last of you see Chris, and then all the shit happens, and then he's in this one. So it's like, it's just again, it's just like messy. Like characters don't like they need to be more concise, and they don't need to be splattered everywhere. You know, you need to just like give me the point of what's going on, man. It just felt again messy. That's the only word I can say is it's messy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I just realized we didn't even talk about the deaths.
Well, I mean, the deaths were kind of the least thing
I know.
because, like, they were like honestly, they weren't even played up. It was just like, oh, there's that person, stabbed there, and it's just like there's no fun with the kills. Like the first one, like the whole stalking aspect was fun, and like some of the kills were okay when they came, and like again, like it made sense because like you were interested in the characters in the first film because like they gave you because it was like a reunion, and you're getting to know people again, like actually what you're supposed to do with the character development. You're getting to know these and all their things and the backgrounds and what they did. Hayden was interested in Chris, and he was interested in Grady. He had the whole everything. All the characters were intertwined, and getting to know, reconnect after all these years of not being able to, see one another, and actually a reunion. This one just felt like you just drove past the reunion. Like, all right, that was good.
Yeah. Well, I just think that my favorite death was the guy that got the Christmas tree shoved down his throat.
Yeah.
Like that was like the best one. It was the most fun.
It was like the only one that was good. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that was it. I was just like, okay. I was like looking for it, and I was like, what are we gonna get? And I was like, oh. I was like, well, I mean, I'm okay with this one being the best death in here, but I wish they would be a little bit more creative than a guy getting strangled in the front seat. Like, I was like, I already knew that was going to happen as soon as they got to the car. Mm-hmm. I was like, nothing fun happened.
Honestly, not that many. I mean, honestly, not that many people like were killed either. I mean, like all his like there was like one or two, and like they were like non-supportive characters, just like random passerbys.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter. I mean, besides the one or two, it was just like uninteresting, unsupportive characters. Just side characters, not even central side characters. Just like, oh, here's a dude walking his dog. Here's the person looking over the forest or the woods. Like, okay. Like one.
And they forget character about their own characters too.
Yeah.
Because once they're dead, they're just like, oh, we need to find them. But like in the most deadpan way. I was like, I just felt like there was no real sense of urgency in anything.
Yeah, and again, like after all the shit that they went through, and like things are like red herring, like you said, red herrings are like, when Riley like, oh, conveniently your car broke down, like they're just like, lay off of it, Riley. It's fine, Riley. And like you went through shit, people are disappearing like they did previously, and you're just gonna say lay off of it, and it's just like again, like the events of the first film never freaking happened apparently in this film, where everyone's just like nonchalantly just okay with everything. It's just like so weird. You're like, that doesn't make sense for the characters. You know?
No, that like I was just like, I was thinking the exact same thing because I was like, you all just went through like he went through like all of this massive trauma and like people pretending to be something that they're not. And now you're going to sit there and say, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah, even his mom was like, don't even worry about it. She, like, again, like I said earlier, like, she didn't even fucking grieve. Like, all that shit. Like, all his friends dying, his dad, brother, son, all that stuff. I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Even when, like, it was revealed, like, and he was freaking out. I was like, oh, don't worry about it. It's like, what's wrong?
No, that's how I felt. Like, I was just like, man. I was like, you all are definitely not taking this dude seriously. I was like, you all just went, know that people are crazy and like has reasons to not trust people. They could have been like, hey, he went through something very traumatic but like that characters came out of nowhere and then just disappeared just as fast. And I was just like, okay. So I was like, that's just a red herring to make you think something, but then revealed that they're not. And it's like, oh, okay. I was like, I mean, I was kind of expecting a little more from that.
And then, like, they tell him, that, like the guy that's car broke down, who shows up, and the red herring, and like they do all that, and they send him out the house, and like your tires are slashed, like, oh, come back in the house, like nothing's like what, like, don't worry about it. Oh, the tire's slashed now, so you're okay. You didn't do that. And it's like, how do you know? I mean, it's that's stupid.
I had the same reaction. I was like, really? You treat him like shit, throw him out, literally. Ah! Like that little scream that he did. I was like, that's so bad. And then it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll come in. I was just treated like shit. Literally, not figuratively, but literally thrown out the door. But it's okay.
Because he found the knife in the tire. You don't know if he put the knife in the tire, but he found it, so he couldn't have done it. What is that? Oh, you're fine. Come back in the house. Everything's okay. I mean, I know it's stupid to hark on that shit because it's a horror movie, but that was stupid. I mean, honestly. Like,
No,
you're fine in our book. There's a random knife in the tire.
Yeah, no, that just absolutely.
Again, we're nitpicking now. I think we're just nitpicking.
Yeah, I mean, but it's still like it's.
Like I said, that one again. If that worked if they gave it time to breathe, it would have been okay. You could have understood it. But like, nah.
Yeah, but, it's just too many things that happened and nothing happened at the same time. And it just, I think if they would have just focused a little bit more on the the tension, I was trying to think of the right word. The tension of the killers.
Yeah.
Instead of the random because it was like boom, killers. Like I felt like there wasn't really like a good build up. Like
I mean, honestly,
I didn't think it was earned.
Like, yeah, I mean, honestly, the killers in this one just sucked. I mean, especially that one. Like, really, really, you're just gonna do that? Like the one I knew, like pretty obvious, like I did with the first one. But that second one, like, really, that's what we're gonna do here. It doesn't even make sense.
Right.
But it was, again, it just felt like, again, rushed. It was a rushed project, and I hate to see that. And I'm sure they took their time making it, but it just felt that script needed to breathe to get everything worked out and properly going all the paths you want it to. It just, again, all that stuff in the films is like nothing. There's like, it doesn't go anywhere. There's no progress to any of the characters, and it's just like randomness just there. And like, you kind of expect a little bit more grief-stricken characters and going through the emotions of the previous events of the first film, but it's just like, no, just forget it. Like, half these characters you don't even know, and you're not supposed to know. Like, they're not attacked in any way. They're just they just have fights and just storm off one way or the other, and just like, it just felt weird, you know. Like, the character's supposed to have some kind of depth to them, and like this one's just like, nope.
No, yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Um, but yeah, I don't really know if there's much more we can.
No, no, I think we've done as much as we could with the Reunion from Hell Part Two. Like I said, it was okay, but I do recommend the first one. If you know, whoever's listening to this, you know, go back and listen to that review and then check it out. I don't think we went really well. There's some spoilers, so hopefully did give some spoilers in this one. So if you haven't seen the first one, I'm sorry. Um, but again, the first one is just, it hit everything, you know, concisely and knew what it wanted to do. This one, like I said, just it didn't have time to breathe. It felt messy, and it shows. And again, I thought the first one just did everything as it was supposed to do, because it was like they had all the time in the world with the first one, and just going into this one as fast as they did, it shows, and it just has a lot of issues. Again, nothing too bad, you know, for an indie, but it wasn't as fleshed out as it should have been. Just the characters didn't act it the way that they should have been acting due to prior events of the first film, and it just, like I said, it just felt like you walked in on something and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And that's the only way I can describe it. I mean, I wasn't a fan of this one as the first film. So I do recommend the first. I think we both recommend the first one. Again, it's, if you like, you know, gay themed horror films, the first one's pretty solid. This one, I don't know. They didn't really. I mean, it's there. I mean, it's more obvious in this one than it was in the first one. Given to the fact that there's a gay shower scene and sex scene, but still, I thought the first one was more adequate compared to this one. But not, again, it's still not bad. I mean, if you watch the first one, you'll probably watch the second one, but I'd stay with the first one personally, because that was more fun and straightforward, to the point, and kept things going at a good pace. This one was just long and unnecessarily long, with conversations that didn't make sense where characters should be at, and it's just like they forgot there was a horrific event that happened previously, and it felt out of place. But Ian, final thoughts, and we'll call this a show.
I think I got everything covered. A little too much.
Yeah, I think we went a little overboard with this one. But again, it's been 2 months, so we deserve it. And I needed to let loose and just talk, and it just felt good. But I'm going to go ahead and call it for our first film of our Indie-Pendence Day Horror Marathon, aka this is our Pridemas review, even though Pride was last month, but still, few days out. Still call it Pridemas. It makes sense too, because I wasn't going to wait till Christmas to review this one, and it made sense since we reviewed the first one last year. This time, let's do the second one. So, with that, Ian, it has been wonderful talking with you and talking horror, and I can't wait to continue on this marathon and see what other films we had in store for us. As always, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night.